Okay, well, thanks everyone, and welcome to day 17 of the 30-day profit challenge. Again, I'm your host, Blair de Jong, and I really thank you for being here today. We've been working our way through the profit litmus test in this profit litmus framework. We're in sort of the third section of the third module now, where we're talking about conversion rates and conversion margin. And so today, what we're going to review today is how do we start working our way through what we call the individual micro conversions within your conversion funnel, and how do we start getting more and more people working their way down the funnel so that eventually you get more traffic, but all the way through to more customers. So without further ado, let's dive into it. So I will share my screen and we will take a look at some things I put together here for you. All right, so today what we're going to talk a bit about today in day 17 of this profit litmus challenge is basically turning more visitors into browsers. And when we talked about visitors to browsers, what we have to do is kind of go back and reference our conversion funnel that we talked about from a couple days ago. So what we're talking about when we're talking about visitors versus browsers, we're talking about the people at the top end of the funnel that would be people that are all the possible people that come to your website, and then how do we make those people into browsers? So those browsers could be visiting, a category page or a search results page. And what we're maybe an example might help illustrate this a little bit more further. So what I did is I took a little screenshot of a website here. This is a sample website called Dubai, and it's from a Shopify theme developer called Turbo. And what you can do is if you just watch the video, what it showcases here is if someone comes to your website and starts browsing around, they're starting to look around at some products, and maybe they're going to look in at a specific collection. So once you started showing some products to them, that's what we're defining here as a browser in the context of a browser on your website. So browsers are typically people that are showing some sort of interest in a product. They've either looked around at a product or two, maybe they walked around the store, and as we likened it to the department store example, perhaps they've entered the men's department or the women's department, and they're starting to walk around into the store and look at some specific products. They may not have touched anything yet or picked anything up, but what we're trying to get them to do is obviously get people, attracting them to come in. So what you notice from this example, if we go back to the beginning of it, what they had is that on the front of the website, they basically had a picture of a product image of someone using the product in their particular, this thing is a handbag that they're selling. And so what they were showcasing is the fact that someone was using the product. And I liken it to think of when you're walking down the street or you're walking through the shopping mall, you go to storefront and you got people that are walking by, and maybe they're going to enter the store, maybe they're not. But it's things that are on display is a way to think about it, is when you put product on display for people to want to be showing an interest, that's what we want to do to encourage people to become a browser. So when we think about that from the aspect of conversion rates, we took a look then at the conversion funnel. And when we look at the conversion funnel, we're going to start looking at some of the math involved to figure out how many people are going to convert from visitors to browsers. So we're going to use a similar math here example where we show 1 million people at the top. And then what this conversion funnel looks like is showing a typical scenario of getting down to around that 3% that we used the other day as benchmark from Amazon. And so today what we're going to focus in on is what we would call the visitor to browser conversion rate, or basically the number of people that go from your website to looking at a particular product. So they're viewing product either from the search results page, from a category page. And so typically e-commerce benchmarks are showing that you want to get at least 50% of people, or about half of everyone that comes to your website, to view or touch a product. Now, that may or may not be what the case for today. And what we're going to showcase too is an example of how you could report on this through a tool I like to use called Google Analytics. And so I'll showcase that in a minute or two. But what we're talking about here is, if you think about it, if you could do 50% at each of these individual micro conversions all the way down the funnel, you would end up arriving at a 3% conversion rate down here at the bottom of 31,000 from that million in visitors. So that's kind of what a typical benchmark would be to shoot for, is around 50% in each of these individual steps. Now 50% may be possible, may not be possible, and we'll dive into a bit more details around, well, what are some things that I can do to showcase more product or to get people moving more further down the funnel. So with that, we're going to take a look then at a little bit more of visitors and browsers. And so let's take a look at the formula. It's pretty simple math here. But what we're talking about is taking the amount of visitors on the bottom in your denominator, and then the amount of browsers in the numerator. So going 500,000 divided by a million to get you to 50%. Now, you can plug in whatever sort of numbers make sense for you, but use the total visitors to your website as the sort of denominator on the bottom. And then what you want to look at is the number of people that view a product. So the number of people that would go to a category page or to a search results page. And the best ways to showcase that is I'm going to show you a report out of Google Analytics here to showcase that. So if I flip to a screen here, just going to pause the screen share really quick, and I'm going to show you what that looks like on Google Analytics. So with Google Analytics, again, it's a free tool that anyone can use for their website. And, you know, it's simple, easy to install. What it allows you to do is, sorry, I thought I had it open here for a second. Just give me a second. What it allows you to do is basically track and record all of the individual details around activity that people are searching for or browsing on your website. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it up really quick. What Google offers you is the opportunity to have a free sort of demo account that you can play around with and look at. So with that, I'm going to showcase how you would go through that report and try to find out how many people are in your overall visitors versus how many people are browsers. So I'm going to reshare my screen now, and I should be showing a Google Analytics report. So this is Google Analytics in a nutshell. I'm not going to go through Google Analytics in detail today. What I'm going to do is just kind of shortcut over to the pathway to showcase how we're going to calculate our conversions for people that visit versus people that are browsing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the left-hand side here to the conversions report, and I'm going to go down to e-commerce. And within e-commerce, I'm going to look at what's called the shopping behavior report. And what the shopping behavior report is going to do is it's going to allow us to look at all the individual steps of our conversion funnel that we looked at previously. And so in this report, what I'm able to showcase here is all of the sessions, and a session is, think of it like a number of people that visit your website but multiple times. So let's say, for example, I visited today, but then I came back and I visited tomorrow. I would be counted as 2 sessions because I visited once yesterday and once today, but then I would be counted as 1 unique visitor to your website. So, you know, it's a little bit slightly different take on visitors, but sessions would be basically all of the visits combined for your website. And so you can see in this report here, again, we're looking at just a snapshot in time here over to the far right of just the last 7 days. But you can see in this example store that it's getting 14,000 people that have visited the site in total, but it's only showing about 2,000 people, or 14.15%, that have actually physically touched a product. Now, the product views that is being defined here is a little bit slight take on what I've showcased here, because in the product views, what we're looking at is search results or category people. But 14% shows you that, you know, in this scenario, there's a lot of opportunity for improvement, because what that means is there's 83% of people that aren't seeing any products or aren't touching any products. And so what you want to do is go to your Google Analytics report, and if you go down to, again, conversions, e-commerce, and the shopping behavior report, that's going to help showcase what your actual current micro conversion looks like between visitors to browsers in your particular website. You know what we'll look a bit deeper for in the next couple of days is we'll look at the sessions with product views, we'll look at add to cart, and we'll look at checkout. But in this case, this scenario, this overall conversion rate for this store right now is sitting at a pretty low value. You can go to this overview report and you can see that the overall conversion rate is only 0.09 over the last couple of days. So pretty low. They've definitely got some work to do. But again, keep in mind, this is a sample store of Google data that they've just used as a demo account that allows you to just play around and understand the reports and understand how to access this information. So by all means, what I've done is in the keynote is I've put an actual link to the store so that if you want to set it up for yourself and go around and play around and look at more of the data and understand it further, you can do that. But otherwise, if you need help or support on setting up Google Analytics for your store, that is something that we can chat more about and definitely help you point you in the right direction. So with that, that's kind of in a nutshell what we wanted to talk through today, is using that visitors to, you know, browsers conversion rate is sort of our first step into the conversion funnel. Tomorrow, we're going to look a little bit deeper into some of the other parts of the conversion funnel. So we'll look at people that are viewing actual product details. We're going to look at things like add to cart. We'll look at things like people that get into the checkout process as well. So with that, that's kind of a nutshell of today's lesson. Short and sweet again, as always, but hopefully you found that useful. Hopefully you found a little bit more extra stuff in there with some Google Analytics and whatnot. I hope it wasn't too techy or too nerdy for you. But if so, please let me know in the comments. So with that, I'm going to thank you for being here today. Again, I'll ask you to be present with your family, with your friends. Try to connect with them today, you know, in light of the situation. And if you can, try to make an impact in someone's life today. So with that, thanks for watching today. I'll pause the recording and I will take any questions.